Hello, everyone. Today I'm joined by Rachel Lankester, and we're going to be talking about or challenging rather, the negative narratives around menopause and aging. And we're going to be shedding some positive light on both of those two topics, which is always there. My name is Deb, and welcome to Women Reinventing Midlife TV, where we aim to inspire women over 50 to thrive in a meaningful life that you deeply desire and deserve. Rachel Lankester is the founder of Magnificent MidLife, which is an online hub celebrating and empowering women. She's the author of Magnificent MidLife, Transform Your Middle Years, Menopause, and Beyond. And she's the host of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. She's also the founder of Menoclarities. She has also recently completed a master's in gerontology, and she helps women create magnificent next chapters. And I've known Rachel now for about 5 years. We've even had a cup of coffee in London together when I was over there. So I'm really excited that she's joined the Women Reinventing Midlife channel, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you. It's lovely to be back. I always like to chat to you. It's always fun.
Yeah, we've already been chatting for about half an hour, haven't we?
We have, yes. Yeah. Perhaps we won't
Catching
repeat
up.
some of those
Yeah,
things on
yeah,
here.
catching up. And I have to correct, I said Menoclarities. It's Menoclarity, isn't it? Your other
Yeah.
platform.
And the
Yeah,
clue
yeah,
is in the
yeah,
name, clarity with that one. It's
yeah,
it's about finding clarity in menopause because there's a lot of dodgy data and wacky narratives and so much negativity.
so
So
much.
and clarity is about pushing back on that.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I've read a few articles on there. I really like the message that you're getting out on there, which I know is a message that you've been giving for a long, long time. And I know that your own menopause journey probably ignited that purpose in you, didn't it? So, can you just tell us a little bit about your menopause journey before we get started?
Yeah, it was a little bit strange. I was given a diagnosis of early menopause when I was 41. And the only reason that happened was because I'd gone for a hormone test to check my fertility. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a hormone test. And actually, hormone testing is not recommended
Mm,
for women in perimenopause because our hormones are fluctuating so much. So at that time, 17 years ago, I was given this diagnosis. It was devastating. It meant my dreams of having another child were scuppered. And but I'd bought into the ageism that surrounds menopause. And I think I've said to you before, I've left the doctor's office thinking, oh, I'm a dried up old prune. And
mm,
nobody had actually said that to me. But that's the message that we're drip fed.
mm,
We're supposed to buy all the anti-aging products. We're not supposed to let our hair go grey. We're not supposed to show any of the signs of aging because aging is bad.
yeah.
Therefore, menopause is the sign that you really are aging,
Mm,
because you're moving from being a fertile woman to being an infertile woman. And so that I think was equally as devastating as actually the fertility diagnosis because I was 41, I knew there wasn't that much potential possibly for me having a child at that late stage. Um, but I went off on this journey to work out what was going on because it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel right. And I do think now that the diagnosis was wrong
mm,
because I went to see a nutritionist and I changed my diet and then I had a bleed again and I carried on bleeding for 9 months. So I clearly wasn't through menopause.
yeah.
And in fact, that was another, now I know that being through menopause, it's if you're over 50, you haven't had a bleed for a year. And if you're under 50, you haven't had a bleed for 2 years.
Mm,
The doctor didn't ask me, how long is it since you've had a bleed? So that was the level of knowledge. The doctor should have been asking that. He shouldn't have
yeah.
just been saying, you've gone through menopause. He clearly didn't understand the results that he was given on the hormone test. So I realized I had more agency over my menopause experience because by changing my diet and my lifestyle, I was able to get back to a pre-menopause state that
Mm.
didn't last that long. It lasted about 9 months. And then I went back to what I think now was perimenopause.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like in my medical records, it had gone down as she's gone through menopause. And that was the kind of track that I was on. But I wanted to find out what was going on, to give women the information, tell them what I had learned, because it was life-changing what I'd learned. You know, the fact that I could turn that menopause diagnosis around.
Yeah.
Found that fascinating. And I wanted the other thing, what happened to me, I had no support at all because, of course, all my friends, were years behind me on the menopause scale,
Mm.
you know. So I had nobody, and it was very, very isolating. I felt very lonely, and I didn't have the right information, and I was just determined that other women wouldn't be in that situation. So I created the resources and the network to support women going through the menopause transition, and increasingly to try and put a positive veneer on it, because everything we hear and everything I had taken on is that it's negative.
Mm.
And it's I now view menopause as a gift.
Mm.
I really do view it as a gift. Excuse me. Because it gives us an opportunity to take stock and to sort out our health.
Mm.
Uh, and Men don't get that. I think it's a real gift. I mean, I've changed so much about the way I live because of what happened to me. And I am a very different person now. And I love the person that I am now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I love the person that you are now.
Oh, thank you.
I also agree that it is a gift as well. It brings so many gifts of, self-exploration, feeling comfortable in our own skin, all of that kind of thing, understanding who we are, what we want, it can be a challenge going through it, but we get to live a life more on our own terms and more in line with what's going to light us up, and feeling stronger to call boundaries and speak up for things that we don't believe in, and that and speaking out for what we do believe in. It's absolutely. I love what you did. Like, you turned what was a negative experience for you into a positive experience for other people. And 17 years ago, there would have been hardly any information around, because we're only just starting to talk more about it now.
Mm. It was very hard. It was very hard.
Mm.
And as I've explained, the information I got was wrong. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
so I mean, there is a lot more talk about it now, and I'm really, really pleased that people are talking about it. But it has become this overwhelmingly negative narrative, which and a fear-based narrative. Menoclarity is one of the things we do is we look at research reports and we pick them apart.
Mm.
And there's a lot of cherry picking of data out there. There's a lot of people saying, well, there was this little small study, but this is an actual fact. It's not a fact. It's a supposition,
Yeah, that's right.
or it's even sometimes it's an opinion
Yeah.
being put across as fact. And that drives me nuts. It really
Yeah.
drives me nuts. I'll go off on a little tangent here. There was a figure that was quoted in the UK. I may have probably have told you about this before, but 900,000 women have left work because of menopause. Not even in the UK, just 900,000 women have left work because of menopause. And this figure was quoted everywhere. It was on the Wellness of Women website. It was Financial Times, BBC, The Guardian. It was even quoted in the UK Parliament in a parliamentary inquiry into menopause. And that parliamentary inquiry into menopause was sponsored by a company that made drugs to help women with hot flashes. But let's not go there. So anyway, so this figure, right? I was like, where has this figure come from?
Yeah.
And nobody had ever questioned it. Nobody. So what did Muggins do? Muggins went and questioned it. And I went and dug into it, and I dug because I am tenacious. I'm like a dog with a bone, I'm going to find out what's going on. And I discovered that this was a marketing survey done by Bupa, the private medical insurance company, right? And I used to work in PR, so I know what a marketing survey is. You decide what you want your story to be, and then you go and you make up, well, not make up, you go and do this research to give you the story that you want, right? It's a clever little PR thing. And the journalists love it because it's easy copy. It's
Mm,
just easy.
mm.
So they went off and they did this survey, and they surveyed women from 18 to 75 or 70 or 75, not menopause age. They asked women if one of four things had made them leave work, and those things were pregnancy, infertility, periods, or menopause. So menopause was one of four things,
Wow.
but they interpreted the data as just menopause. 40 women said yes to one of those four things out of the 1,000. And then they extrapolated that to the entire UK population of women aged 18 to 70 again, not accounting for women who are out of the workforce for child rearing or ill health or disability or anything. And then the figure that went out there was 900,000 women have left work because of menopause. It was a complete load of tosh. I mean, I
Wow.
could use a much ruder word, but it was a complete load of rubbish. And um, basically, I mean, what Bupa then did was they launched a menopause insurance product on the back of all the coverage they got. I know, I
Oh
know.
my God.
So this is just an example that
Mm,
I'm talking about because it's so important that we don't accept
mm,
that are put out there. That's so important that we stay curious and we question the data
mm.
because that's outrageous, isn't
That
it?
is
That women have been
outrageous.
manipulated in that way. And what happened as a result of that, you've had a whole industries that have grown up of coaches who go into workplaces to counsel workplaces on how to look after their menopausal women. And they're quoting that, well, don't you know that 900,000 women leave work? And at one stage, oh my God, I even found a video. There was one of these workplace coaches who was on video saying 900,000 women are leaving work because of menopause every year.
Every
So
year.
there are no women in the workforce over 40. I mean, it's just
Oh, wow.
so
It just
menopause.
shows you.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with a lot of these figures just to, and it takes time, believe me, it takes time, to look into all this data. But we're passionate about it, and we're
Yeah.
passionate that women are not misled,
Mm.
and they're not misled so somebody can make a quick buck.
Yeah, that's good.
The menopause market, the global menopause market, is now projected to reach $27.63 billion by
Wow.
2033.
Wow. And that's
Yeah,
a thing. Like you can see it's being talked about a lot more and now being talked about celebrities, which is really getting the message out there. But you've got to be careful of the message that they're actually giving. And what the end result of that is are they trying to market a product?
in the UK, we had two menopause documentaries by Davina McCall, which, hats off to her for doing it. It really raised awareness. People started talking about menopause, but
Mm,
there were there were several things in that documentary that just didn't sit right. One was she was there with a tube of testosterone cream, which is off license in the UK. It's not recommended by any of the menopause societies unless somebody has had standard HRT and it hasn't worked for libido. That's the only situation. Whereas she was on television putting it on her arm and showing people how to apply it. Now, technically, that's illegal
Mm.
because you're not allowed to advertise a pharmaceutical product on a television program. And yet there
Wow.
she was doing it. And again, nobody's questioned it. Nobody said, hang on a minute, why? What's going on? Why is she
Yeah.
doing that? The
Yeah.
other thing is that Davina is a television presenter. And the other thing with all the celebrities, right? And the politicians and all the people who are talking about menopause, they've had a very difficult experience of menopause. Well, they live a very stressful life.
Yeah.
And you and I know that stress makes
Oh, yeah.
menopause a lot worse. We know that.
Mm.
Uh, and they've all lived, a TV presenter, it's a pretty stressful life, a politician is a
Yeah.
pretty stressful life. And also, but a lot of these celebrities, they're also former addicts. They're very open about the fact that, they've had drug or alcohol addiction in their past. And when we go back to when I talked about menopause being the gift and it allows us to sort out our health, if we've had those issues in the past,
Mm.
menopause is going to be more difficult.
Mm. It
It's
all
going
affects the endocrine system, doesn't it? Mm.
it all's connected.
Yeah.
So, we need to remember these things. But the other thing with Davina, so she's a TV presenter and she was particularly worried about brain fog. This is what got her because she had to be able to
Mm.
remember somebody's name when she was presenting a live TV program. She did Big Brother and these things. She's very famous here. Um, so that was really, it was the brain fog that drove her to really look into menopause and to do these programs. It's now been found that she had a brain tumor,
Right.
and she has publicly in the press said that she credits the brain tumor, it was a wasn't malignant, but it's been operated on. Um, and the brain tumor was sitting on the area that is responsible for short-term memory.
Mm. Mm.
So now, but only people like me have read that whole long article about
I
her and her
didn't. I didn't know.
brain surgery. No,
Mm.
nobody else knows.
Mm.
Other people won't pick up on that. So all of the information she gave out about how dreadful menopause is and how we all, need medication to sort it out. And the biggest thing that worried her wasn't actually caused by menopause.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It is, isn't
That's
it?
incredible. It's because hormone therapy is being talked about all over the place. I go on Instagram and I see it being talked about by doctors and urging us all to get hormone therapy and it doesn't always suit everybody, does it?
No,
And
it doesn't.
like you've always
Yeah.
said, and I agree, we're meant to have a different hormonal profile as we age. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I took hormone therapy for 7 years. I didn't take it because I felt I needed to, but the doctors wanted me to because of this early menopause diagnosis. And they wanted me to take it until so-called average menopause age of 51, which is what I did. And then I came
Mm,
off it.
mm,
And what was really interesting to me when I came off it was I became my own guinea pig because there were two occasions when I had a hot flush after coming off the HRT. One was when I'd had an alcoholic drink, and the other was when I'd had some chocolate.
there you go.
So that was an immediate, I was able to see that alcohol and sugar gave me a hot flush, which again was very interesting to me. And I think the thing with hormones, I mean, hormones can help women get through the menopause transition. And I am absolutely pro women taking hormones if they need to. But what it does is it deadens the symptoms. It
Mm,
it it numbs us so that we're not able I'm not there able to make that association with sugar and alcohol with the hot flush because I'm on the hormones.
Yeah.
So I'm going to miss those signs that actually my body is trying to give me, that maybe I need to do more exercise because I've got aches and pains, but maybe the HRT is helping with that. I don't know whether it's not supposed to, but some women claim it does. Whereas actually what I really need is to be doing yoga,
Yeah.
and to be putting in place a whole new regime for my
Mm.
next stage of life.
All the things, all the lifestyle changes that we're meant to make, the diet changes that we're meant to make, all get missed if we just think that hormone therapy is the be all and end all. If it's that we see it as a cure to symptoms, which is kind of like looking at menopause like it's a disease, which it isn't. It's just a stage of life. So it's, yeah, I agree. I'm the same with alcohol and chocolate. For me, it keeps me awake.
Well, that's the other thing. Women will come to me and they'll say, "Oh, I can't sleep." And my first question is, "How much coffee or tea do you have?"
Yeah.
"Oh, 5 cups of coffee." I was like, "Well, what do you expect?"
That's
The thing
right.
is, what people don't realize, and I've learned this from my menoclarity colleague Tanya Elfasy, is that menopause is a sensitive time in a woman's life. Our hormones are going all over the place. It's like puberty, it's like pregnancy. Those were also very sensitive times in our lives, and our body can't process things in the same way anymore, which is why these things come, which is why we get the symptoms. But again, it's the body's way of talking to us.
Yeah.
So, we can't process the sugar, we can't process the caffeine, we can't process the alcohol as well as we could before. And maybe that's menopause, maybe that's just aging, but I do think it's a lot to do with menopause. It's the different
Mm,
hormonal profile, but
mm,
that is happening at the same time as aging, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much. Yeah, I think I'm the world's biggest fan of menopause.
Yeah,
I just think I just think it's
yeah.
great.
If I need to know anything, I contact you. The best
And
research.
I'm always saying it's a tunnel, not a cave. It may be very difficult. But if you have a very stressful life, if you have addiction in your life, if you don't do any exercise, if you eat ultra processed food, if you sit down a lot, which most of us do, if you smoke,
Mm,
you know, if you have unresolved trauma,
mm,
all of these things are going to make sure that you have a more difficult menopause experience.
yeah.
So that's why I'm really keen as well to get to younger women. Oh, and burnout, of course, stress
Yeah.
and burnout.
Which we
Most of us, we
both
get to
experience.
midlife,
Yeah.
and we're just burned out, aren't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, that's right. So we're trying to do everything and be everything because we know
For
we can, so
everybody
we try
else.
to. Yeah, that's right. It's so true, isn't it? And that's what really gave me a hard time with symptoms is the burnout. It was the stress that created the burnout that led to, that heightened anxiety that I experienced, not being able to sleep and all that kind of thing,
And
which
then it becomes a vicious cycle because we
that's
worry
right.
about being worried.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then we don't remember something and we think we've got Alzheimer's, then we worry about having Alzheimer's, and then it just all
Yeah,
gets worse.
it's so true. Yeah,
Whereas
it's
if
so
we just
true.
went, this is perimenopause,
Mm,
and I'm going to be the most amazing, authentic version of myself at the end of this,
yes.
and I'm going to put in place all of these things that Rachel says I should put in place
Yeah, that's
so that I can get through it more easily,
right.
then I think we have a much better chance of progressing it. And I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm also another menoclarity colleague is Kate Codrington, who's written a wonderful book called Second Spring. And she really delves into the whole spiritual transition of
Mm,
menopause. And it is a big spiritual transition. We are different. We become different people. And so it's not just a physical transition, and we need to take the time to mark that. We
Yeah.
need to take the time to grieve what we're losing. Like I lost my fertility, and that for a lot of women, that is a big thing. But again, it's a big thing because society doesn't tell us that, postmenopause, we're actually like the postmenopausal whales and we go off leading our pods, and
Yeah.
we have a different role, which is
Yeah.
just as important as the mothering role that
It
we
is.
had.
Mm.
But yeah, Kate's book is brilliant to really explore, the cycles that we go through in life and embracing all of the change, but also looking after ourselves, nurturing ourselves, taking the rest that we need to take to be able to do this transition well.
I like it. Yeah, I've spoken with Kate. Yeah, I interviewed her for one of the summits, and I love her philosophy.
She's
It's
brilliant.
yeah, she is, and she's fun too.
Yeah. We did a menopause workshop at the Vagina Museum in
Oh,
London.
that's right, you did. Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So another book that I read that you recommended was, now what was it? We were talking about it before we jumped on, and it was all about breaking belief
Becca
codes,
Lever, Becca Levy, Breaking the Age Code.
breaking the age code. It was all about our beliefs, wasn't it? And how the society narrative, the ageist society narrative, the impact it has on us.
Well, she's actually done her own research and she's found that positive age beliefs can add 7 years to your
Mm,
life.
mm,
And this, I think it's amazing. And there's another book I'm reading at the moment called Age Proof, which is written by an Irish professor whose name I can't remember, but it's called Age Proof. It's very, very good. And she references Becca Levy's work. But what I think is interesting is that if we are accepting that we're deficient post-menopause and that we need hormones to protect us from all of these chronic diseases, which is the message that's out there, we believe we're deficient. That's not a positive age belief, is it?
mm.
So
It's not.
actually, if we believe that we're deficient post-menopause, then we are doing damage to our lifespan,
Mm,
potentially, because we're
mm,
buying into that negative narrative, not the positive age narrative. And
yeah.
this is just something that I've very recently sort of made this connection. And I'm going to be working more on this because I think, I don't like the deficiency narrative anyway, because I don't
Mm,
like to think of myself as deficient for 30 years of my life. But at the same time, if positive age beliefs add 7 years to my life, is a deficiency narrative going to reduce my life by 7 years?
yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. Of course, it's not. No, but it's not going to help, is it? It's not
It's
going to help.
yeah, it's going to it's obviously going to affect the way you experience that 7 years.
Yes,
Mm, mm,
and it's just well, it's so important. It's so
yeah,
important.
yeah, yeah. And I remember in that book she talked about it. You might have like conscious beliefs that are quite positive, but it is amazing how those society narratives, because you see it all over the place, how it affects us unconsciously, and to be really aware. And I think the unconscious beliefs come out in our language, don't they, when we're talking about something? I know
Oh
that
yeah.
I've noticed that with clients, talking with clients, I can normally hear something behind what they're saying that implies that they don't actually believe what they're saying. So it's kind of and the things that unconscious beliefs, the way they come out too, I've noticed is when we're not analyzing what we're going to say before we say it, and it just comes out automatically. Yeah. Mm,
And we are the product of the societies that we grow up in. This is
mm,
something that I explore in my book, because gendered ageism is the worst in Anglo-Saxon countries. So that's Australia, that's America, and it's the UK. It's better in Catholic countries. It's better in Orthodox countries. It's better in East Asian countries and Central Asian countries where women have more status the older they get. Whereas in our culture, and I've traced this back as ever the research hound, it's actually to do with Protestantism because of the Protestant work ethic. And, women, the higher they went up society, working class women always had to work. But if you were, middle class or upper class, you didn't work.
Mm.
Therefore, you had a reduced value from a Protestant perspective because you weren't working. And then older people don't work either. So the older women have got the double whammy of not working because they're women and not working because they're older. And that this gendered ageism that's so much worse in Anglo-Saxon countries comes from this Protestant work ethic, which of course is different when you go into other cultures. And they've also found that, in countries where women have more status the older they get, they have an easier transition through menopause. I find that
That
fascinating.
is
I find that
fascinating, isn't it?
it's fascinating, and that's
Mm.
all about
Yeah,
beliefs around aging.
yeah, isn't it? Yeah,
A
so
while ago, go on, sorry.
well, so women in Japan, that I know I've read somewhere before that women in Japan don't get the symptoms that we get, and they passed it off as being about diet. They eat a lot of tofu and soybean and that kind of thing, but it's more than that, isn't it? Because an older woman in Japan is more valued.
Yes. Has more
Mm,
status, has a
mm,
role.
mm,
I mean, that's not to say there isn't sexism in these societies. There is absolutely sexism.
mm,
And, you know, an older woman may be as dismissed in the workplace as she is in our culture. But within the family, within society as a whole, she will have more status the older she gets. I worked in China for a number of years, and older people in general were always given the best place to sit. They were always served first within the family, and that was the older woman just as much as the older man. So these things, they make a difference. There is the whole Confucian ethic of, filial piety and deference to older people. And that sunk into me. So, if I see an older person on the tube and I'm sitting in the seat where I'm not supposed to sit, if there's an older person coming on the tube, I will stand up. And 9 times out of 10, they'll refuse. They'll
mm,
take it as an insult because I'm implying that they're old. I'm not. I'm just deferring because they're older than me.
mm,
And
mm,
because I've had that ingrained in me
mm.
by the time I spent in China, which I think is a positive thing. I think that's a positive thing. And
It's
if somebody
yeah.
younger than me gives me a seat, I'll say, thank you very much.
Yeah, I would too. I would too. Well, it's respect and honor, isn't it? And giving up your seat for
Exactly.
someone older than you.
Exactly.
Mm, yeah.
That's the way I see it. It's not,
Mm.
oh, you poor thing, you're really old and decrepit and need a seat. Not that. It's not that.
It's not that. No, I love that. It's so different in other cultures. I think we need to take a leaf out of their book. I know I have done a lot of work in Faith Agugu's sanctuary, the Silver Sirens here in Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've interviewed her before on Summit. I think I've released one of hers on YouTube. And she talks about this, how she feels really, really fortunate that she has grown up with a really different cultural belief. So she has never, ever seen aging as a bad thing. She's always seen it as a good thing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm,
Amazing.
isn't it? Mm,
I remember it was a few years ago. I'm not on TikTok now. Well, I'm sort of there, but it's all dormant. But I was experimenting with TikTok and I did a little video. And I did a little video and I asked at what age people learned that aging was bad. And I said, was it when you were in your 30s or your 40s, or maybe you were really lucky and it was, late 40s before you could have twigged onto it. And in the comments, one woman said, it was when I was 5. And she said that she had watched a TV advert for a face cream that claimed to take 5 years off your life. And she imagined herself disappearing completely.
Oh,
But isn't that shocking?
isn't it shocking? Yeah.
I was so shocked by that.
Mm,
And you've got teenage girls having preemptive Botox.
mm,
Like,
mm,
I mean,
mm,
what's that
mm.
about?
Yeah, I know.
What's that about?
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I worked in medical cosmetics for about 12 months before I became a coach, and I saw that. Yeah, lip injections, Botox. Yeah, really, really young women in their early 20s. Mm, mm.
But they've been taught by a very efficient marketing machine
Exactly. Yeah.
because it's all about selling the products.
Mm.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's all it's about. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Oh, we could go on and on and on about this. I just looked at the time. Rachel, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the women watching? And there's probably even men watching too. Hopefully there is.
What I love about getting older and going through menopause and being in a different stage is that I am far more curious now than I ever was. And I would say that curiosity is a superpower. And it's a superpower that becomes more and more the less we are on that hormonal roller coaster, and when we have more mental clarity and wisdom and experience to offer the world. So I would say just stay curious.
Mm,
If you hear a narrative that doesn't work for you, doesn't make you feel good, then you don't need to accept that narrative. Just find a
yeah,
narrative that works for you. Find icons who you want to follow, people who are different. You don't need to assume that just because somebody says something, they're right. Be
yeah.
curious about where they got their data from, where they got their information from, and just, yeah, find what works for you.
Yeah, like that. And it's not like we're in the dark any longer. We've got access to online facilities and search engines and all of that kind of thing. We can check it out for ourselves. Yeah, thank you. Now, where can people contact you?
Over at magnificentmidlife.com.
Mm.
Uh, I've changed my name on Instagram. I'm not Magnificent Midlife anymore. I'm my name, Rachel Lancaster. But I think if you search Magnificent Midlife, you'll probably still find me. But magnificentmidlife.com is where everything is really.
Cool. And menoclarity.com. That's a .com as well.
Yes,
Yes.
menoclarity.com.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want clear, consistent, trustworthy information about menopause, menoclarity is very good. I'm very proud of that, actually. It really
Yeah.
is a voice of clarity. And we are, we're not in anybody's pocket. This is all me and us doing it off our own bat because we're concerned about it. We're not being paid by anybody.
Yeah.
So we can be objective.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah, and I vouch for that because I've been to Menno Clarity. I quite often post your articles in my Facebook community, and you definitely do. You challenge a lot of things on there. So, yeah, definitely check that out. And I forgot to mention how active you are as well. I mean, you've been interviewed on TV. Did you speak at Parliament once? I can't remember. Did you?
Oh, yeah, we had
Yeah,
Men of Clarity went to Parliament.
you
Yeah.
did. Yeah, that's right. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Rachel, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And this has been a brilliant conversation, as it always is. And I'm really looking forward to posting this one.
Well, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here, Deb.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we've obviously enjoyed having the conversation, and you've got some interesting information from it, please remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell for notifications so you're notified as soon as the next video comes out. Lots of love to you, and I'll look forward to connecting next time. Bye bye.